Waterville. We pause to ask you to be with us and guide our way. May your spirit of peace surround all we say and do this evening. We ask for your strength to do what is best for the good of Waterville. Lord God, as servants of your people, we pray that you grant us a share of your wisdom. Amen.
Amen.
Please rise. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bruno?
Here.
Mrs. Bruno?
Here.
Mr. Fry? Mayor Brody?
Here.
Mr. Rosick?
Here.
Mr. Fiesel?
Here.
Mrs. Duncan?
Here.
I'll make a motion to excuse Mr. Fry, who's out of town. I'll need a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we have approval of our regular and special council meetings, March 25th and April 3rd, respectively. We need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions, comments on either set of minutes? Yes.
Just a comment, we have a couple guests in our audience tonight, and Rachel Allison is from Notre Dame Academy, and your other students are from Notre Dame also, right? So she went up to the podium when the mayor called her at the time and gave her name and a little bit about your school, and she's in the minutes. So she's getting double credit, right? Mayor?
Perfect. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I need to abstain for the March 25th meetings.
Next, we have citizens' comments, and I have a couple. First, Nick Sargent. If you don't mind, Nick, state your name and address at the mic.
My name is Nick Sargent. I live at 439 North River Road. I serve on the safety committee, and unfortunately our safety committee hasn't been able to meet for about 8 months now. I think our last meeting was August 2018. So I guess if I served like on an arborist or tree committee or something and heard half the trees in Waterville might be cut down next week, I'd be a little concerned if I wouldn't have a say in the matter until weeks afterwards. So our next fire district meeting is scheduled for April 29th, and I believe we're planning on having a safety committee meeting in the first week or two of May. As a member, I would like to get a copy of the district feasibility study so I could perhaps read over part of it. I understand it's a fairly significant sized document, so it'd be nice to have that ahead of time. And just to know, you know, I mean, I guess we don't really know what's going to happen on April 29th, but while our safety committee decisions aren't legally binding and council can do as they please, it'd be nice to have some input to give to council for consideration prior to deciding to either move forward with or not move forward with the actual fire district. So outside of that, I guess I'm hoping that it's maybe a little more advertised this time. It seemed like we didn't have much of a public showing last time. And at some point, when appropriate, and the information's been digested, perhaps hear from our local firefighters from Waterville and White House and their opinions and their take on the pros and cons if we were to form a district. Because I think that insight would be invaluable. That's all I have.
Thank you. We can get a copy for you, and I don't know if we could put that online.
It's online.
It's online, so, but if you want a hard copy, we can do that too.
Yeah, that'd be great to have a hard copy.
It's at waterville.org.
Thank you. I have another comment. Susan Meyer, 274 North River Road, and she just had some questions relating to the same, and I believe was at the meeting as well. And I'll just read them. She said that I could read them for her. She didn't want to come up there. The cost to Waterville taxpayers will run more than our city department costs, and that was a question. Will they? This won't solve the staffing problems. It was a question mark. And have you considered asking taxpayers for additional funding for the city rather than the district? Maybe 1 or 2 mills instead of what the feasibility study said, six plus. So just a few questions for council that she wanted us to have. So we'll keep that with our fire district information. And then if anybody has any other questions, they can contact obviously any of us up here, myself, and our administrator as well. And we made a big point. Our previous administrator was finishing that feasibility study for us, and he's still helping us part-time on a couple things. That was one of them. As he mentioned at the beginning, I know there's a couple people that were at the meeting, at least in the audience, and that was a feasibility study, and the key word was definitely a feasibility study. We interviewed a couple different consultants that do studies. That one happened to be the retired firefighters. A lot of the scenarios he put out there, I would say, in my opinion, one of them was kind of the top scenario. And there's a whole lot of variables to it, which we already looked into. But the feasibility study was to get a snapshot of where each department was at the moment. And then we have to look at other scenarios for sure, and there's different ways to fund it as well. But at this time, Waterville has already put a lot of extra money into the fire department budget that we didn't have to do a few years ago to pay part-timers because they obviously cost more than people who are volunteering for a stipend. So we're already paying quite a bit more if you go back and look about 5 years ago at the budget. And we've tried to add an additional firefighter, had no luck hiring one last year. So the districts, I will tell you this, in my day job that I have, there's 800 clients in Northwest Ohio, and there's quite a few fire districts out there, and they're all over the state. Some of them, a lot of them work really well. There's a lot of rural areas. They do it just because they can't find enough people. Unfortunately, the whole reason the study started, just so people are clear, is the number of volunteers had drastically dwindled. We are finding more people now and part-timers, but one problem with part-timers is they can move on, and they may not be as long-term as what we'd hope for. So one thing you'd hope for with the district would be some employees that would be there a while because you could employ them full-time. So those were just scenarios. I think some of the numbers, we kept emphasizing that at the meeting, so I hope people understand. If they have questions, talk to us, please. And we're still studying it. So for the people that haven't heard about it that might be watching, we're tentatively meeting April 29th with White House, the Village of White House, and the township again. So hopefully between now and then we'll discuss some more things, and then we'll bring it back up. But yeah, I think most of the fire department was at that meeting, and our chiefs have been involved, both White House and Waterville. And then the township's currently a customer, so they do not have any fire employees. So just a little update for everybody. It's an idea that's been floated out there, and only because of the lack of people volunteering in a volunteer fire department for the last few years. So
does the township just pay like fixed fee?
they pay a fee right now, and they have something on the a levy that they pay half of it to us and half of it to White House because they're in the middle. They're all, you know, around us, so we split that area as it is now. We actually have mutual aid, and we all back each other up at this point anyway, along with Monclova. So we all work together. We currently work together right now, fire and EMS. So, and luckily we do, and the county has a squad in White House. They receive money for having that squad there and workers, and they answer many of our calls right now. It's because they have paramedics mainly. So that's a little scenario, but it's been moving, it's been changing as we go as well, just because things have drastically changed in the last 20 years in the fire. And it's not only Waterville, it's across the country, so across Ohio for sure. Any other public comments that I didn't receive written? Yes.
Hi, Todd Boatfield.
Do you mind hopping up there and stating your name, where you live?
Sorry. Todd Boatfield. I'm
Yes.
with the Waterville Rock the Block, and
Yes.
some of you know me, some of you are new, so you don't know me. But I used to come every year and beg for your approval for the party that we have every year, and then previous administrator told me I didn't have to do that anymore, so I didn't come last year. And I work closely with Karina in the Waterville Chamber, and every year we fill out our road closure paperwork and stuff for the block party, and we go around and get our signatures from all the people that are affected and everything. And last year we had put on our paperwork that the timing would be, we close the road at 5 till 11:30, which I'd gotten previous approval from past times I've come in here. I wanted to go to 12, and you guys said, well, how about 11:30? We settled on 11:30, and that was fine. And last year when Karina got the paperwork back, someone had crossed off 11:30 and wrote in 11. So I'm here to beg to go to 11:30. And if you ask me why, it's because we make all of our money on our beer sales, and people tend to get there late at 9 o'clock-ish or afterwards when it gets dark, and that's when we do the majority of our beer sales. So I'm asking for your approval on that again, and to answer any questions if the reason why it was changed back to 11. Real quick, before I forget, this year, we're giving all of our money raised to the Aurora House this year. Previous years, it's been the DARE program, the Anthony Wayne Athletic Boosters, and the Alumni Association. And I asked Karina today, knowing that I was coming here, to get some numbers together for me. This is our either 9th or 10th year. I lose track because I'm getting really old now, but Karina has told me that we have taken in over $74,000 in the past 9 years, and we have given away $49,000 of that dollars to local charities. So this isn't just some little hot dog stand and car wash that we do anymore. This has turned into a pretty big event, and it brings a lot of people into Waterville, and then also a lot of the local businesses do reap the benefits of this also. So this will be my last year of doing it. I'm turning the reins over to Karina, or whoever she decides to do it. But anyways, I just wanted to clear that up and make sure that there was no bad publicity from this event or anything, and to make sure that it was still okay that we go to 11:30. I will assure you that we will stop all ticket sales at 11, which is what we do every year anyways. We try to have the band say they're done at 11, and they play a couple more songs till like 11:15 or so, and that's fine. I understand the noise ordinance kicks in at 11 and all that stuff. I also wanted to say that we appreciate the police presence that we get from Waterville every year. We always have a couple officers there, and Karina, I know, really appreciates that because they walk her back to the chamber office with all the money. So if I just want to make sure there was no problems, and if we can fill out our paperwork till 11:30 again, that would be great.
Well, thanks for coming and for the comments. I'm not sure if there was a reason why it was changed back. Chief, if you can.
Chief?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
What's the date?
And what is the date?
What's the date?
Yeah.
Why?
Saturday, June 15th. It's always Father's Day weekend. We go Fridays and Saturdays depending on if it conflicts with other parties or anything. So Saturday, June 15th.
Okay.
The reason for the 11:30 cutoff for the party itself was in deference to other downtown residents who we hear from. They feel they have a right to expect some peace and quiet at some point in the evening. So the previous administrator and I had determined that 11:30 was a good cutoff for the party itself, and then we cut off the alcohol sales. That was the 11 o'clock, is the alcohol sales, because once you cut off the alcohol, the crowd starts to disperse.
Right.
So unless I'm instructed otherwise, I'm going to stay with that this year.
Yeah.
Alcohol at 11, party at 11:30.
Yeah, exactly. I think,
I have no problem with that, and we've always done that. We've always cut the alcohol sales off at 11. I just want to make sure that they can still turn in their tickets up until 11:30. No alcohol's sold, distributed, or nothing after.
No, alcohol stops at 11 o'clock.
Nothing served.
Right.
Okay.
was there a question down there? Okay.
Just wanted the date.
All right. Sorry. Thanks. All right. That sounds good. Thank you for the update too.
Thank you. Oh, hold on.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Do you have another one now for citizen comments? Yeah. State your name.
Put it down. Hi, I'm Karina Flagar for Waterville Chamber of Commerce. And one of the things is, first, we'd like to thank, City Council for letting us put on the block party. We do raise quite a bit of funds, as you can tell. The other thing I wanted to see is if there is a way that we could have the alley next to Sean's on the docket to be repaired sometime, maybe filled in or something. There are a lot of potholes there, and I know, Jeff Lark is a great person to keep in our city with the income that he has coming in, but the parking lot, or the driveway, the little alley, is really starting to deteriorate. So I was just hoping that we can get that somehow on the repair docket to either get filled in or get some other type of, something to fix it. That was it.
All right. Thank you. We'll pass that on to Public Works.
Karina, I don't know if you noticed, but just recently we did grade that whole area.
You did? Super, thank you.
All right. We already took care of that. So. All right. Any other citizen comments? I might ask, because Mr. Pedro is going to ask, if you're here for class, for a high school class, would you mind coming up and introducing yourself? And then you'll be in the minutes. So. And is this a whole class today? Is it?
What?
Is this a whole class
It's
together?
a couple, yeah, it's a couple people from.
You can just state your name and what you're here for.
I'm Julia Rothweiler, and I'm here just to get some gov hours and to learn about these kind of meetings and just
Where do you
kind
go
of
to school?
Notre Dame Academy. Yeah. So,
It gets easier as the years go by.
I'm Maureen Connolly. I also go to Notre Dame, and I'm here for gov hours for class.
I'm Crystal Lewis. I go to Notre Dame, and I'm here for gov hours.
Hi, I'm Sophie Brady, and I'm not in gov. I just came for fun.
Wow. That's really nice.
Hi, I'm Jaden Fink. I also go to Notre Dame, and I brought her, but I'm in gov for gov hours. Hi, I'm Julia Webb. I go to Notre Dame Academy also, and I'm here for gov.
Hi, I'm Mariah Madison. I also go to Notre Dame Academy, and I'm also here for Gov.
I'm Rachel Allison. I am also here for my government hours from Notre Dame Academy.
Thank you, girls. Well, now you'll be in the record, so.
I'll be in the
official.
minutes.
Yeah.
I wonder, if you-
Thanks
Mayor,
for coming.
if
Yep.
they, do you have to write a report or anything after your,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you have to, you do, a
Yeah.
report? Oh, good.
All right.
Make sure you spell John's name
That's
correctly,
right.
okay?
That's why I asked. I just-
Yes.
Thanks for coming. Next, we have our staff reports to start with our administrator, Mr. Gokenauer.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to add a couple things to my report. Every year, we get a notice from the Department of Commerce from the state of Ohio that all of our alcoholic beverage permits in the city are expiring on June 1st of 2019. And if council wants to object to the renewal of any of these permits, we need to do it by resolution before May 2nd of this year. I did discuss this with the police department, and they did say that they did not have any objection to any permit renewals. Excuse me. Another issue is every year council has to file their financial disclosure statements with the Ohio Ethics Commission, and the deadline is May 15th, 2019 for those council members who are not on the ballot in November. If you are on the ballot, then your filing deadline is October 7th, 2019. I did mention this at a previous meeting. The state did raise the gas tax by 10 cents, 10.5 cents per gallon, and the diesel tax is up to 19 cents. So that will work out to about $126,000 more per year. And as I mentioned at a previous meeting, in the 2019 budget, we are transferring about $100,000 from the general fund into the street fund. So this will hopefully offset that in future years, and this takes effect July 1st, 2019, so that's when the increase takes effect. We did talk about the joint meeting with White House and Waterville Township in regard to the discussions of furthering the creation of the joint fire district, and White House did confirm today that they would agree to hold the meeting on the 29th of April. They haven't confirmed a time yet, and the township has not confirmed that they would be attending, but I guess all likelihood is that we'll have the meeting on the 29th at the Village of White House. And that concludes my report. If
Thank
anyone
you.
has any questions?
Any questions? Seeing none, our law director, Mr. Dombey.
No report tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you. Finance director, Mr. Gokenauer.
No report tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you. How about our treasurer? He's got a report.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. As Mr. Gokenauer mentioned, February isn't quite wrapped up yet, but I do have the January report here. January was kind of a slow month in terms of any big bills, but you can see we're at about $5.9 million in terms of all funds as of the end of January. But I actually like this report because when you look at the chart underneath, it really does show very clearly where we were at January last year versus January this year. And you look at every one of our major funds, and they're all up about $300,000 to $400,000. So I think they kind of get muddled when you get all the months in there as you go. But when you really look at this, it's pretty clear to see that last year was a pretty decent year in terms of helping out all our funds. So that's all I had for my report.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have our police chief. Welcome back.
Evening, council members. I'd like to say it's good to be back, but after 7 weeks off, and it's not. I do find that after a couple of weeks, you forget what day it is. You wake up wondering what day of the week it is.
Doesn't matter.
But back I am, so to business. Safety City. It'll be July 15th through the 19th at the elementary school again. Registrations will open on May 1st, and as in years past, it's $30 per student. The police vehicles, upgrades to the computers. Computers are at 911 right now being programmed. Once they get done, we'll get them back over to DRE, and they'll start those installations. I don't have a timeline on that right now. See, I already took care of the rock the block question. And then the final thing for tonight, this morning I handed a letter to the administrator announcing my retirement. And it comes as no surprise to anybody. It'll be August 23rd, at close of business. And so after 7.5 years, I'm going to say bye-bye and just go be an old fart for a while.
Congratulations.
And any questions?
Oh. Questions? Well,
Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have our fire chief. Who is not retiring yet.
No, not that I know of, anyway. Good evening. I first want to start with what's on my report is thanks to the police department and Public Works for helping us out with the purchase of some CPR mannequins. We can start to try to teach some CPR classes again. We are working to get that up and going. We did receive the mannequins. They're not put into service yet. We just received them in. But thank you to both of you for the help. Also not in the report, our 2 boats, being that we're coming into boating season, are getting their preventative maintenance done tomorrow. So we'll have that done. Also not in the report, all of our capital items are purchased except for the heart monitors are not purchased. Mr. Gokenauer is working on that with the physio control rep, so he'll have more information on that. And from the list of people that I had mentioned before that we had in the hiring process, I have 3 part-timers in for their health physical, and 1 pay-per-call took their health physical today. So hopefully here shortly, those 4 members that I spoke of earlier in the year will hopefully be coming onto the roster. So that would be 9 for this year already. Other than that, do we have any questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
On the, something you mentioned in a previous meeting, on the trainings that you have a lot of new people, on the driving of fire trucks or ambulances, how is that? What's the status of some of that?
We just, the first week of every month, we usually try to do driving. We went out last weekend. I took some of the more experienced people with myself, and the 2 captains took people out. We drove around quite a bit of the city for most of the day. Figured maybe somebody was asking about why we were out scattered all over the place. But just so the public knows, I think it's in June, I have scheduled some public PR, so we will do some more driving. We're going to attempt to hand out popsicles to kids. So in June, I will get a little closer. We'll try to have more information on that. But every month, we do try to go out and do more driving. So.
Any other questions?
No, just thanks for the report.
You what?
Sure.
Thanks for the report.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
Yeah, compliments on the report. Thank you, Doug.
Excellent.
Very nice.
We usually do it during citizen comments, but if it's a quick one.
What is your pay for a part-time employee?
Well, currently it depends on if you're a paramedic or an EMT, but it ranges from $12.70 to $13.70 an hour.
Any more
I know that Mr. Gokenauer is working on that. I turned in a wage study, so hopefully we'll have some information on that.
Anything else? Council? Nope. All right, thank you. Mr. Blair, Public Works Director.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. You have a copy of my report and also a copy of the current project list. I wasn't going to go through all those, and I had a question. There are two items I do want to touch on, though, and that's the progress on the Waterville Bridge. 2 weeks ago, if you recall, we had heavy rain. The river came up again, and they weren't able to get out in the causeway to do any work, probably for about 3-4 days after they cleaned it up again. However, before that time, they were able to pour the stem on Pier 6. That's the section between the foundation and the beams. And also, they were able to pour concrete in 2 of the decks. So they did make some progress. As far as the bridge opening, I think, John, you and I heard at the last progress meeting, they kind of throwing out sometime before Thanksgiving. That could change. So we'll just have to see. The other item I had was, if you turn to the back page of my project list, we received 4 bids for this mowing season contract. Highest at the top, lowest at the bottom. You can see there's quite a difference. However, we're going to go ahead and award Masilski's lawn care and see how he works out.
Is that the entire year, summer?
Pardon?
That amount, is that the entire?
Is that per cut?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Per week.
The,
Roughly per week.
Per week? Or every other week? Or?
every time they do it. Sometimes they'll have to do it twice a week, especially in the spring. If
Right.
it's,
And that'll be how much each time?
for some of this stuff's, we put fertilizer on, we have irrigation, so.
Okay.
Wow.
So anyway, we'll be monitoring it, and we'll see how it works out. I do know some items, which kind of struck me funny, on a proposal was he had 0, which means no charge, so.
What'd you say?
For what?
He had 0.
0.
For some of his.
Oh, for services?
Some of them.
Like trimming or
Mowing.
for the actual mowing?
Well, they're probably looking for an opportunity.
Yeah, that's what
Get
John
into
and I
the
feel
city.
about it, so we'll give it a
Exactly.
shot.
See how they do.
Good. I'm actually happy to see, that we're changing it up this year. I think that's good.
It's diverse bids. Any questions?
That's the end of my report.
Yeah, Mayor, I just wanted to acknowledge one of our local businesses, Caruth Studios, George and Debbie
Yes.
Caruth, for the donation of the sculptures to the bridge.
16 sculptors, correct.
Yep, that is awesome.
Once we get a time on when they're going to be setting the bridge, they would like to be contacted, possibly have the news media out there and do a little segment on it. And then also again, when the bridge opens up.
Do you know what the sculptures, what the theme is, or what they?
All different ones. I have a list of them with the pictures if you'd like to see it.
Any issues on the public?
Mayor, I have one.
Yes.
Kenny, on page, I guess it'd be page 2, at the top of the page 2, you met with Mike Melnick from Operation Engineer. Can you explain how this was discovered and when was it discovered? It was the very violation.
The violation letters?
Yeah.
Sure. We've been monitoring it, and as you well know, we contract with Mike right now to do our stormwater management. I can't rattle off all the violations that they have right now, but there are several of them. And now that the weather's getting better and they're going to start building again, they need to come to compliance. EPA will be in town, and they really frown on some stuff, and we want to kind of keep the big bad wolf away if at all possible. So that's it in a nutshell. I mean, they're no different than anybody else. They have to comply with those regulations, or we could end up getting fined. They could end up getting fined. So basically we're sending them a warning shot that they got to get their act together.
Is it the silt fencing that's not going up, or what's the?
Oh, it's multiple things. Detention pond, you know, there's multiple things.
Okay.
They're all spelled out in the letters that I sent, so.
All right. Was there any feedback on the switch for trash and recycle collecting with Republic Services? Did you have any feedback?
Well, they did really good their first week they were here, but their second week they didn't do as well. And we created kind of a spreadsheet of some homes that were missed today, and we're gonna follow up with them and make sure they, for whatever reason, they get all the homes in the city of Waterville. So.
In one day.
In one day.
Yeah, one day.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Quick question real quick. Waterworks Park, does that leak at all? Does the pond leak?
It evaporates.
It evaporates, so
Yeah.
we don't have a problem.
If it
We don't
is,
have to fill it on a regular basis.
No, we got a pump that pumps the river water into it to fill it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's a clay lining, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's clear.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, communication from council. Start with Mrs. Duncan.
No report this evening.
Mr. Pedro.
Well, just to follow up to what Nick was talking about, the Public Safety Committee meeting, we are gonna be meeting prior to April 29th. The mayor and I spoke, and due to some new information and schedules, so we will be sending out a note probably later this week. And I think when you and I communicated, I mentioned we'd get the copy of the report, and there's other public safety items that went into account for changing the meeting last week, so we did not intend to not have the meeting. We just postponed it last week. I think you and I communicated that previously, and I spoke to Doug also on that matter, and to John. So everybody's covered. I got it all done. But nevertheless, got a lot of things going on in public safety, and we will publish that agenda and that meeting notice here momentarily. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Rosig?
I just want to commend again Doug Meyer. I know we did it earlier, but with the annual report for the fire department, which was very helpful. And I wonder, I guess, if that can be used at this stage to compare with the feasibility study to see which, you know, ultimately we're going to have to compare what we can do here independently with what would be done with the district, or if there's more detail you could add to the study with regard to personnel level requirements and finances. So, that's it.
Mrs. Bruno? Mr. Bruno?
No report.
All right. Under old business, we don't have any. It's unusual. Under new business, we have Resolution 11-19, a resolution authorizing participation in the Ohio Department of Transportation contract for road salt awarded in 2019. And this is something we've done in the past, and I don't know if there are any changes or what type of price, Mr. Gokenauer, if we know that.
You know what, we don't know that. ODOT has been very helpful, and it's been advantageous for us to participate in this program and to ensure a good supply of salt. Communities that kind of go out on their own and take bids, the prices are usually higher, and they could run out of salt during the winter. So we had been doing this apparently since 2009, and we usually do it once a year or twice a year. We do a resolution.
All righty. Any questions? If not, we need a motion.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next, we have Resolution 12-19, a resolution authorizing the municipal administrator to award a contract to American Fireworks Company in the amount of $19,400 for professional services relating to a display of fireworks on July 4th, 2019 for the city of Waterville. Mr. Gokenauer, you have an update on that one?
Yes, we did only receive one bid from American Fireworks. We usually receive at least 3, but I did point out that they did our fireworks in 2015, 2017, and 2018, and we have found that they're very professional and easy to work with, so we don't have any qualms about recommending them
okay?
for this year.
Thank you. We need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions from council on the fireworks?
Just want to make sure the fire chief's okay with this provider, because you have to,
Really good to work with. I've worked with them the last couple of years, personally. They're a real good company.
great. Excellent.
And it's on July 4th this year again.
It's in the contract. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Other information or unscheduled business, Mr. Pedro.
I do want to go back to Karina and Todd. Thank you for putting that on. That's good for our community. I guess, have 2 questions, and that's pretty substantial amount of funding that's raised. Going forward, is there a formula to select charities, or is that something you decide, or people say, hey, I'd like to be involved as a recipient next year? Kind of like the Jamie Farr, the LPGA, no longer Jamie Farr, how they have various charities. So I'm just curious, how is Aurora House or
Chosen.
Yeah, that would be good, because they
That'd
can,
be
yeah. That way they can hear you in the public, so.
When this all started a long time ago, I'm sure some of you have heard the story of how it started and everything. Actually started with the fire department. So they were the charity at the time, and then I started off on my own. My fire chief now in Springfield was the Anthony Wayne Athletic Boosters president at the time, so I asked him if he wanted my money, and of course he said yes. And it's progressed down the line. The last couple of years we chose the DARE program because of all the heroin epidemic and opioid epidemic that we've been going through. Thought that was a great one. And you know, it's kind of my decision. I obviously confer with Karina and them. What's the gentleman's name? The lady?
Mark Harris, he's part of our committee now.
Okay, so a gentleman that was at one of our meetings said, I know the lady very well at the Aurora House, and I said, excellent, with all the human trafficking stuff that's going on and everything else. It just felt like that was something that we could, you know, get behind and give our money to. And we had her name. Come on. Mrs. Fox. I can't remember. She's the president of our house. She came to our last meeting. Yes, we start meeting in January for this party that happens in June now, by the way. She came to our meeting. She gave us a great presentation. I'm fully behind what she does, and I love the fact that they keep the kids with the mothers when they come into this house. So. There is no rhyme or reason to it. It just, that's how it happened this year. Yeah.
No, I think it's great, and I think it's wonderful that you're reaching out to, and I'm sure others would be interested down the road, so very successful program.
Do not contact me, contact Karina.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other information, council? Questions? All right. Need a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
John, you're always moving to adjourn. Todd. Enjoyed that. It's a great party.
It is.
I look forward.